We're in the Canterbury foothills, just outside Christchurch in Glentui, with Alex James, mathematician. Now, the last time we talked to Alex, we were talking about her work collecting bug poop from beech trees. That's right, and we were so fascinated that this could actually be a real job, we thought we'd better come and check out how she actually does it. Hi Alex, how are you?
Nice to see you. No, glad to be here. Always pleased to get out my office and out to the trees.
Exactly, any excuse, eh?
Yeah.
Now look, before we get to the trees per se, I wonder if you just give us a brief reminder of why you're researching with the beech trees in the first place.
Well, as you remember, I'm an applied mathematician. I'm at the University of Canterbury and I do a lot of work on ecological modelling. Yeah, so which is taking mathematics and applying it to ecology. These insects live on these trees and they feed off them. Yeah, so they take tree sap, which is kind of nice sugary goodness. They take it and then they eat as much as they want and they crap out the rest.
As you do.
To be perfectly frank. And the thing is, the trees lose lots of carbon. And we've all heard of carbon, we've heard of the carbon cycles, we hear about global warming, which is connected to carbon, particularly carbon dioxide from the air. And so currently, because of all the things that, well, probably because of all the things that people are doing, there's too much carbon dioxide in the air. And trees do a really great job for us because they take it out of the air through their leaves, through photosynthesis, and they put it back into the ground, really. These little insects, yeah, they take all this carbon away from the tree. And what the tree does in return is it takes more carbon dioxide out of the air. So this is great.
This is great. This is excellent. These little guys
the
have
answer
got a
to
negative,
global warming.
They have a negative carbon footprint. We need them everywhere.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. And so, but the thing is, these little insects, they're very small and they're quite hard to actually see because they live inside the bark of the tree. You can't really get to them and nobody really knows what they do. The thing that we can see, all we can see is the honeydew coming out, yeah? The bug crab. Yeah, you can see that all the time, but you can't really get to the bug and find out what it's doing. So the question is, how much stuff do they crap out? How much carbon do they take? How much extra carbon does the tree take in because of the bugs? Yeah, and, you know, can we use this to say New Zealand's way more, you know, clean green New Zealand, yeah, and we're doing our bit for global warming.
Yeah, and if you're going to plant a tree, make sure it's a beech tree.
Yep, that's the one, yeah, and we'll give you some scale insects to put on it. Yeah. And you can't really take these insects, they're too small, you can't really take them back to your lab or your back to the university and look at them there, so we have to come out and look at them here. But the thing is, all we've kind of got is kind of the end results. We just know some numbers about the stuff that's coming out, and we know that the amount of stuff that comes out, it's not always the same. If you come on 2 different days and measure it, you'll get 2 different answers. So why is that? We know that some trees have got loads of insects on and some haven't. Why is that? Yeah, so all the time we're trying to say, we want to know at the end of the day how much extra carbon dioxide is being taken in from the atmosphere by the trees because of the bugs.
Right.
And every time we go and measure it, we get a different answer.
So pretty hard to model.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite hard. It's quite hard for the ecologists to kind of deal with this because they're going, well, do we just take an average? Will that be fine? Or maybe we only, you know, maybe if we went on hot days, there'd be more, or cold days, there'd be more. And that's the type of question they want to answer. And because they can't learn these things directly from the trees and the insects, you just can't get there to look at them. And so they ask people like me, mathematicians, to come along and say, we've got all these numbers, can you help us? Yeah, can you help us answer some of the questions that we've got? So yeah, that's how I get involved in projects like this.
And so what would you actually do in terms of, I mean, do you physically collect the bug poop to check out, you know, in terms of how much they're producing? Is that, you know, random samples, that kind of stuff? You actually do that?
Yeah, sometimes do. Yeah. Personally, I do a little bit of coming out of the forest. I mean, I think it's great fun. As a mathematician, if I wanted to, I could just say, nah, it's nothing to do with me, just give me your numbers. Give me your numbers and I'll look at them on my computer and I'll do that. But I actually quite like it. It's good. It's a great excuse for me to come out to the forest. And it's really nice as a mathematician to see the stuff that we're doing, see that it's actually useful.
Yes.
Yeah? And the other thing is, mathematicians, we have a very, very bad habit with ecologists and biologists. We have a very bad habit of just saying to them, oh, could you not have measured that? You only took those measurements. Oh, that's no use to me. I need to know this. And you see the ecologists roll their eyes at you. And you remember that it took them 24 hours of staying up all night in the rain to collect this data for you. Them and their team of 100 third-year students did this. Yeah, and we just say, can you do it again? You didn't do it quite right. So I think it's really good for mathematicians to get out there and see the things that they're working with. It gives you a much better understanding of it. Yeah, strictly speaking, you know, again, a lot of mathematicians just say, can't be asked.
You can't be asked. Give me the numbers.
Yes, but I like to see it. I think it's way more fun, and it gives me a better understanding of what's happening.
Okay, well, aside from the fact these bugs must have a very good PR agency because their poop is called honeydew, where can we see that? Where is it? Where is the honeydew?
Yes. If you look carefully at the tree, I mean, I can see already from here, I can see kind of the tree glistening.
Yes.
And I can see lots of little droplets.
Yeah, and you just might think it's like dewdrops or something, you'd think, on a hairy tree.
That's honeydew. It's bug crap, so I can kind of collect that with my finger.
Okay, that's probably the first on camera you've seen of that, a woman eating bug crap. Now, you're telling me that you can eat that, that's
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for your life. Find yourself a couple of droplets, collect a bit.
You collect a bit like that.
Yeah, and any thoughts?
Ooh. It's sweet, it's tasty. So as you've been doing this for a while, has there been any newer developments with your study of this?
Probably the work we've done most recently is work we refer to as episodic feeding, yeah, which is a bit of a euphemism. It's not really episodic feeding, it's actually episodic crapping. Yeah, right. So yeah. When you come along and you look at this, so I could come along, yeah, and I come along on whatever day it is, and I do my sampling. So I've come along and I've mapped out where all my bugs are, and I can see all my little filaments, all my anal tubes. So let's say I did that today, and I look now, and I can already see here. I mean, there's a tube that hasn't got a droplet on it. There's another tube, but that one's got a tiny one on. Yeah. Yeah. Most of these do have droplets.
Yeah, it's got a big droplet.
Yeah, but if you look carefully, a lot of them don't have.
Yes.
Yeah, quite a few don't have. So.
What are they doing?
Yeah, what's going on there? So if I came along and I mapped out my little area and I collected all my droplets, and maybe I came back 3 hours later, 6 hours later, and I measured them all again, and I measured which tubes have droplets and how big they are. Yeah. It wouldn't be all of them.
It wouldn't be all of them.
No. And so how many would it be? Well, kind of usually every time I come back, it's quite different. And so again, the ecologists are asking, well, the bugs that don't produce anything, you know, I came back 3 times, I came back over 9 hours, and I came back 3 or 4 times, and there's still this kind of 25% of them that never had a droplet. Are they dead?
Have they been marauded by wasps?
Exactly, yeah. Do the wasps come in? You know, and you say, they say, I've no idea. Is it dead? I don't know. And so we come along and we can do some mathematics about that. Yeah, and we can start, because they don't produce droplets all the time. We know that it's not a continuous process. We know that it's on, it's off, it happens, it doesn't happen. Which, if you think about it carefully, is kind of like us. If I looked at the time between production, and I did it for a person, then probably what I'd end up with is something like a normal distribution. Yeah? So usually if I just followed one person, say you, yeah, for however many days, and looked at the time between you producing, then it would usually be about, say, this many hours. But sometimes it's a bit more, sometimes it's a bit less. And so if I was to draw a distribution of that, a probability distribution, I get a normal distribution. Right. Yeah? Which is kind of like the heights of people. Yeah? Yeah. Most of us are about this height. Yeah. Yeah. Few tall people, few short people, very few very, very small people, and very few very, very Giants. Tall people. Yeah. Yeah? So it's a normal distribution, kind of that shape. And so is that what the bugs are doing? If I did the same thing for these bugs, if I could work out the time between productions, then would it be a normal distribution? Or would it be a slightly different distribution? Because there are a lot of distributions out there in the world, and some of them look very different from normal distributions. One that we see a lot is the one called an exponential distribution. Some people call it a decaying exponential. So you might, if you've come across the exponential function, then you'll know that that grows and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But then you remember, you also get decaying exponentials, which decrease. So they start off at some number and they always get smaller and smaller and smaller, and they quickly end up at nothing. And a really good example of the decaying exponential distribution is the number of red cars. Well, it's not the number of red cars, it's how often do I see a red car. So imagine I was standing by the side of a road. And
Pitching, possibly.
Yeah, that's
to
the
one.
Forest. That's the one. And I'm thinking, oh, I just saw a red car. How long is it until the next red car? And then how long is it to the one after that? And then the one after that. So what's the time between red cars?
Fully random, isn't it?
It's completely random, exactly. So you think, that wouldn't get me any picture at all. Actually, it does. A process like that that's completely and utterly random gives you the time between them as being a decaying exponential. So there's quite a lot of short times, and then there's some sort of mean in the middle, and then you see a few kind of longer times and a few long times. You never see any really, really massive times. A red car will always come eventually.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot. You'll often see two at once. Yeah, and that gives you these very short times between them.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's at a distribution that looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have a process that's completely random, and there's no, we say it's as likely to happen now as it is in the next minute, or the next minute, or the next minute, or the next minute. When we have a process like that, the time between events, so that's the time between me seeing the red cars, or for our bug, the time between production, then if I do the distribution of those times, it'll look like this decaying exponential function. So that's one that goes like this.
Like that. And yes.
So that's the question. What do the bugs do? Are they like you and me? Do they have a normal distribution of when they produce? Or do they have one of these decaying exponentials? Is it completely random? Yeah, are they just as likely to go for a crap this minute as the next minute, as the next minute, or the next minute? So that's one of the questions we were trying to answer, because that'll tell us a little bit about the bug physiology, which again, we don't know anything about, because they're very small, they're very hard to get out of the tree.
Yes.
I was trying to do one earlier, and I just managed to kill it.
Oops.
Oops. Oh well, there's a lot of them, so it should be fine. They're not quite endangered species
So
yet.
really this is sort of information you could only get through using mathematical
That's right.
tools.
Yeah. Just by looking at them, the ecologists aren't going to be able to work this out. Whereas we can take the results of their sampling, so that's just looking at these trees and seeing how many droplets are there at different times and how big those droplets are. We can use that information, we can put it into our mathematical models, and we can start saying things about the bug physiology. We'll probably never know the exact answer. What we're doing is we're saying this is much more likely than that. Yeah, so actually giving a definitive answer is hard. And in mathematical modelling, we rarely give definitive answers, but we say, we think this is a lot more likely than that. Yeah.
And all of this, of course, is sort of wrapped up in trying to nail down the carbon cycle of the beech tree.
Yeah. The thing is, the more we know about the bugs, the
Yep.
more we know about how they work, how often they produce, what do they produce, how many of them are there. Silly things, what side of the tree do they prefer living on? What are the environmental conditions that make it more likely for them to produce or not produce? The more we know about that, the more we can predict how much extra carbon the tree will take in because of the bugs.
My final question really, Alex, is do you know the way out of here? Because I think we came that way. Can you lead it away?
It's you're an Aucklander, isn't it? You get lost in the forest.
Because I can only be out in the